Okay, we're good to go.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I need to make a motion and a second. I need to call for a motion and a second to reconvene the public meeting.
See some of these
Motion.
rioters when they're explaining why they're doing this
I need a second.
because
Motion.
I got a motion. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mark. I apologize for being late. We had a lot to discuss in executive session. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Jesse, would you handle that first?
Eileen, you need all in favor.
Oh, I need an all in favor. Sorry. Thank you, Mylin. Aye.
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 Jorge's the patient, not me.
Okay. Jesse, if you would, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jesse. Will you please call the roll?
Yes. Mrs. Panico,
Here.
Mr. Washa,
What the? All right, who's got their phone going on there?
Mark, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm sorry. My phone was getting a bad signal here. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Mrs. Augulus,
Present.
Miss Kennedy,
Present.
Mrs. Napolitano Furno.
Present.
Then we have Dr. Adams,
Present.
Mr. Middleman,
Present.
Mr. Kolahifar,
Present.
Miss Villarreal,
Is she with us?
Present.
Oh, there she is. Okay.
and then we have Mrs. Hutchinson
Present.
and Mr. Giardi.
Present.
Okay, and then myself as the Ms. Kemp as the district clerk.
Thank you, Jesse. I don't believe there were any changes to the meeting agenda, correct?
No, there weren't any.
Okay. I need a motion and a second to accept the minutes of the July 28, 2020 planning session, business meeting, audit committee meeting.
I'll
Motion.
make a motion. Oh, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The next thing up is new business discussion items. Who put this one on?
The field utilization permits.
Yes.
The board requested that after the discussion that you folks had in July, that we revisit it in August.
Okay. Who wants to start with that?
If you want me to start, or you want to
Yep.
ask the attorneys. Do you want me to start?
Yes,
I don't-
please, Jackie.
Okay. All right, this is about the fields that we want to give. Well, I know for my own self, I want to give the public back what the parents are asking for, as long as all these different organizations, youth sports organizations can abide by Governor Cuomo's guidelines. There shouldn't be an issue, and there shouldn't be a reason why we're not giving them back their permits. We've given leased properties the opportunity to use their leases and to have games and sports for the youth. This is over a month now that the governor allowed youth sports to begin, and some of these kids, this is the only thing that they enjoy outside of and that gives them something to do outside of their home life. I really think that we should let it be a parental choice, like all the board has said, parental choice with reopening. It should be parental choice with this. If you don't want your child to play a youth sport, there's nothing wrong with that. If you want your child to play a youth sport, as long as the organizations follow guidelines and the sanitation and sanitizing and all the things they need to do to make sure it's clean and all the COVID guidelines that they're supposed to follow. I don't see why we should not give these permits back to them.
Okay, can I add to that?
Yes, Lee, you can go ahead.
Okay.
I don't want to hear, just after you're done, Lee, I'd like to hear what the lawyer's ruling is on this, but then yes, please go. And then we'll have Mark and then Mylin, or vice versa. I don't care.
Okay,
ahead, Lee.
I don't have a problem with that. However, it is the district's responsibility to make sure that our fields are being used properly, that everyone is doing it according to Governor Como, that the kids are safe, their playground usage. If they're going to use it, we need custodial staff to clean it. But I think most important, we'll say for CYO, I think that they have to pay for security. This way security can monitor everything. And, you know, I don't disagree with them not having it, but I think we have to take steps to make sure our property is followed. You know, so whatever the cost that Linda had, the superintendent gave us for in terms of security, they should be responsible for. Then I don't have a problem with any of that, as long as I know that they're doing it right. And I do have one other quick question. You had mentioned that someone was playing on the field, on the wrong field, and it wasn't noticed by anyone. Did you share the date and time that happened? I'm talking to Jackie.
I believe it was Saturday and Sunday. And I believe that we had this discussion with the superintendent, and she was going to get back to us with regards to what what security had come up with.
Okay, now Linda, it was Saturday and Sunday. So can now security go look?
So I did have our director of security look, and they were sending security guards up because we had folks parking at two of our schools and walking across our fields. And with everything closed, our security guards did actually ask folks to move. They also asked folks when they saw them, when they were on our playgrounds, to not use our playgrounds. Our athletic director has reached out to the organization and reiterated those two things should not be happening. We did not have video footage, and I will ask him to look again, but we did not get video footage of full games happening on fields that were not under the lease.
Okay, but this is not the first time this particular group has played on a field that's not theirs. Because remember, once I called and they stopped them playing on a different field. So, and they said, oh, the cameras don't go back that far. And I suggested that they start using a roaming car. But apparently they're not seeing it if Jackie has pictures of this team just playing on our fields, not taking care of them properly, and kids on playgrounds and no one cleaning after them. So
Lee, I think what the situation is, Lee, is security can't be everywhere all the time. And that's just a fact with any kind of security. Right, so we have roaming security. If I'm just saying, if we have roaming security and there is something going on at one building and the other building is where the security guard is, you can't expect the security guard from one building, because if they're roaming, it's just like anything else. If something's going to happen, it normally happens right after you leave. People don't normally do things bad in front of them. That's
we're talking about
having them there.
Unless
you're going to post one at that school the entire day, Saturday and Sunday, and then make that youth association have to pay, because you're saying that people with permits are going to have to pay for a custodian. They're going to have to pay for.
No, I didn't say custodian.
Okay, what you
said security.
I'm sorry.
No, I said security. End of story. Security.
Ladies, let's wait for one person to finish.
Okay, well, I'm trying to say this. It's very simple. You can't keep making rules that apply to one agency, but not to another. We can't say that this youth sports group is allowed to use things and not have to pay security, but yet want security to stay there all day. You have to start to do things that, like, it should be quality across the district. It should be consistency across the district. It should be consistency across all these different youth associations. For a month, we've allowed other agencies who lease property to pay. Why are we allowing that, but we're not allowing all these other youth sports that other children's parents who maybe can't afford this group, or maybe this group doesn't have that affiliation with that sport? There's different.
Excuse me. Okay, thank you. Now, I want to add to that. Dr. Adams.
Wait, Lee, I'm sorry, 1 second. Jackie, are you finished?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty much done. It's just that, Eileen, I think that we have to start to, you said it best the other day.
I said it.
You said
Wait.
it. No, you said it best. You said to me about the reopening that it has to be parental choice. Then why are we not giving parental choice when it comes to field utilization?
Okay.
Why are we saying that an agency
Jackie,
that has a lease
Jackie,
can
we
use
didn't
it,
say
but not a
anything.
permit?
Jackie, we didn't say anything. This is why we're discussing it tonight.
No, but
Lee-
Eileen, this is the third meeting that we've had to bring it up. The
Okay.
third meeting that you guys have wanted the attorneys to give you the same guidance that they've already given us. So obviously, this is the third time this is being brought up.
I thought it was the second, so I apologize. Okay. Lee, are you finished speaking?
No, because the group that didn't belong in those fields doesn't belong in those fields. They have a lease to play on their own fields.
You
They
are
don't
correct.
have a lease to play anywhere they want. So this is not the first time that they broke the rules. So I don't understand how they get away with breaking the rules.
Well, that I think is a discussion for the lawyers in exec session.
Right.
And their
Eileen,
lease.
can I add one?
Wait, Jackie, I'm talking to Lee for 1 second, 1 sec. I'm sorry, Jackie, just give me a second.
So that's the
Lee,
first
am I
thing.
correct in?
I'm almost
it-
finished. This,
Wait,
this-
I'm asking you though, Lee, is this a discussion for the lawyers and the lease? That's what I'm asking. Is that what you're questioning?
No, they
Okay,
have a
all right.
lease. They don't belong on CYO's fields. They don't
No.
belong there. So they are on they're on that property illegally. Okay?
So wait,
There is-
I'm not understanding what you're saying, Lee. I'm just trying to clarify. I'm not being facetious.
They are
you're-
using Duffield. That's not their home.
Okay, now I got it. Thank you.
So it's not their property. They're using the field illegally, and I think they were spoken to about it at one time. So it's not that we're showing favoritism to them. They don't belong there, and we're not
No.
doing anything about it.
Okay, so
Okay.
that's something that's what I'm asking. Is that something for executive session, Lisa, then? What Lee is
No,
bringing up?
they're not doing anything about it. I'm
Wait.
only finding out from the super tonight because she didn't inform us of, give us the answer in a memo or anything.
Right, so that's what I'm asking, Lee. I'm with you here. I'm not debating you. I'm saying that their lease says that they have to stay on their property. So is this
Right.
something that we talk about in public or executive session?
It's probably more appropriate for executive session if you're talking about,
A
potential
particular lease, right?
lease, breach of a
Breaking the lease.
agreement.
Okay, so Lee, that's why I said that.
Okay, right. Well, this
Because
is what's
that's
happening.
we have to do that in executive because it's a legal matter, and you're correct when you just said. So that we're gonna push that aside for the an executive session.
Mrs.
I'm-
Panico, I've just, it's Linda. It's
Wait, who
Dr.
said Mrs. Panico?
Dr. Adams did.
Oh, Linda, just call me Eileen. I'm good with that.
Okay, Mr. Flynn is actually listening in on the forum. If
Okay.
he could get invited in, he will answer your questions.
Well-
There was nothing to report to you folks because they watched the videotape and he saw no games on the Duffield Fields this weekend. And what Lee is talking about is there was a young girl, about 11-year-olds practicing, about 11 of them on a field one day, and it was seen on videotape, couple feet, and we sent security there and we asked them to leave.
Okay.
But that was months and months ago. It was not part of any kind of, it was just a practice of our local girls, and they shouldn't have been there because our fields were closed. And they
Okay.
did leave. They did leave when security approached them.
Okay.
So if
So
you'd
let's
like- if
go
you'd
back
like
to
to
the
have-
Wait, can
I
I-
think-
Can I
have
just
that-
add one last thing?
Wait. What
We can have
Jackie's
Jesse
original
send the link.
question was, because we went a little bit off topic. Lee, your lease question, we will talk about in executive, but Jackie's original proposal and I believe I'm right, Jackie, correct me if I'm wrong, is you would like to have a motion tonight to allow groups to use our fields according to the governor. So in other words, like if the governor said tennis could be used, I know he's,
Yes, soccer,
wait, right.
soccer's allowed, you're allowed field hockey.
Okay, the
there's
ones that are
there's a
allowed,
list.
I don't know all of them. You want to make a motion tonight for us to vote on allowing the ones that the governor said to use, allowing them on our fields with the provision that they follow, and I'm paraphrasing what you said, that they follow the CDC guidelines, Department of Health guidelines, and that the district charges them for not only the field usage according to our schedule, but also for security and cleaning, because we can't bear that. We can't ask the taxpayers. Wait, Jackie, let me finish.
Just say security.
Well,
I
we can't ask
disagree.
the taxpayers to clean up the playgrounds either.
No.
Maybe we should charge them the
security
same thing that we charge for a lease. Maybe we should charge them exactly what we charge for a lease. How about that?
Okay, so that's another issue, Jackie, that we need to talk about.
I'm just curious to know.
But the lease has to
how
be talked
we-
about in executive, Jackie.
I understand that. That's why I'm not going to talk about the lease. I'm just stating that I think we should do quality across the district and consistency. So
And I
whatever
just
we
want-
charge for one, we should charge for all. And I know what
Jackie-
that price is. That's what we should do.
Jackie, I'm not disagreeing with you. I was just reiterating what you said. Lee, I'm not disagreeing with you. I was reiterating what you said. One is executive session, one is public. Is that what you want to do though, Jackie? Make a vote tonight to do that?
Not with charging them. I don't think
I don't
it is
believe they should
fair
charge it.
to charge security. You're going to charge them for security, yet you're not going to charge all. It's either all or none.
Well, the
Either
other,
we
wait, the
pay
lease,
and we eat the security charge, or everybody pays equally.
the
Not
lease,
that
does-
we're saying that the youth organizations that we give permits to now gotta feed off of a big, that's a big, you're talking about paying a security guard and paying for maintenance. You are talking about a good amount of money. Yes,
Jackie, the lease
why don't
people,
we charge everybody the same?
because the lease people don't use our fields, they use their own fields, and we don't have security on those fields. We have security for
They
Duffield.
are our
That's a
fields
different
that we
issue.
lease to them. They are our fields
However,
that we lease to them.
Again, that's
And
an
other
executive
districts
session.
like Sachem, for instance, they charge a lot more than us. That's all I'm gonna say.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but that's
Eileen?
an exec. Go ahead.
I don't think they should have to pay for the playground usage. I think that if they pay for security and they don't want kids on playgrounds, security has to make sure they don't go on the playground.
Which is their job anyway. Okay.
Right.
All right. So Jackie, is that what you want to do? You want to ask them to be able to play? You want
I
to
want us
vote on that tonight?
I want to give them back their permits. Yes. I think
Okay.
it's time. The parents are asking for it. And like I said, there's a lot of kids that are dealing with mental health issues, sitting in a house, doing nothing. This is something to get
We
them
got you,
out
Jackie.
into the fresh air.
Jackie, definitely got your point. We're good. What I need to hear from though is Mylin and Lee. Mylin and Mark. I'm sorry.
So I have one question.
Okay.
Linda, do you know if Locust Avenue has been used in your fields?
I don't know that answer.
How
How can we find that out?
Yeah, I'd like to know if Locust is using your fields. Again, it's not that I drive down Locust Avenue that often, but I haven't seen any activity there. Not to say that there isn't activity there, just a few times I do drive by there. I haven't seen any activity. I have not seen any activity on the Bosty fields. I have not seen anybody using the playgrounds at Bosty. Again, that's just in my area where I drive past every day. As far as the playground equipment, it's definitely heartbreaking to not see our children
Yeah.
use a lot of these added to the playground.
Yeah, they're
Definitely
beautiful playgrounds,
heartbreaking.
right?
But I do understand that we have to use every precaution, and that means the health and safety of everyone. We cannot have people using the playgrounds unless we have staff there to continually maintain it, clean it, have hand out hand sanitizers as people want to go on, as the little kids want to go on and off the playground. I understand that's a big commitment, and that's also cost money to the district. And that's not something that we can allow for all the burden of the taxpayers to take on. I do understand, like Lee pointed out that, or somebody pointed out that we normally do have security that is a rolling car, and I believe that should be part of their responsibility to oversee that the playgrounds are not being used. On the other piece of this, does our security have the jurisdiction to tell somebody you need to wear a mask, to be 6 feet apart if you're not within your family unit? Or would they be sort of the COVID police to make sure that people are
Good
following
questions.
the CDC guidelines?
I
Who
don't
are
know
you
who
asking
has
that,
the,
Mylan? So we on the weekends generally have 2 cars.
okay.
So if we start to reopen fields, and I'm going to just put this out there right now, we cannot reopen buildings, so we cannot give any permissions. And I know that we have basketball and volleyball and a lot of other teams who play in our buildings, but in order to keep our buildings safe for our teachers, faculty, and staff, we cannot have folks in there touching everything after all our custodians have done their work of cleaning and sanitizing after our kids have left. So, you know, if we have to kind of separate right now the difference between an outside field versus indoors, because indoors we really can't allow use at this moment. I got an answer from Don about the islip fields. He said the islip fields are being used nearly every day. There's a lot of activity on Locust Avenue fields, but none have spilled over to Basti. And islip maintenance is there over every day. And the maintenance at CYA at the complex is done by them, as well as they pay for their own utilities, which is part of, you know, Jackie was saying before, charge everybody the same. Well, they maintain those fields. So it's just a little different. And I know we're going to talk about the lease at another time. But again, the reason that we have security in the district is to make sure that our buildings are secure, that we have no broken windows, that they walk the buildings to make sure in the winter that our equipment is functioning properly, so things don't freeze or we don't have something boiling over. So to ask, you know, our 2 security guards who are roving security guards to make sure that our buildings are secure, to now go and secure fields for people who might not be following the COVID regulations, I don't think that we would have enough people, and we are
Linda,
talking about
can I-
close to a
can I-
$35,000 cap for earning.
Can I
Isn't
say
that
something?
for police
Oh,
anyway?
wait,
Wouldn't you call
Linda is
911?
speaking. Wait, Linda is speaking. Let Linda finish, please. Please, 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 ladies. Thank you.
Thank you. So one of the main things that worries me always, and you know, Don and I have this conversation every year, is when we get to November or so, and our folks have reached their $35,000 maximum cap. That's always a worry because we always have enough security, but it gets very tight when we start to look at those times. So if we're looking to have our security guards police the appropriate social distancing and the mask wearing and all that on all the different fields, because we generally give out permits for every building and the field's usage on every building, we would not have enough with our cars. We would have to increase, and that would be an additional cost on the taxpayer if the if the board did not want to put that on the organization. So legally,
Can we-
I'm going to ask attorneys to weigh in on this. Legally, I don't think that we
Before they weigh-
can. Yeah.
I also
Can I-
didn't have the
Hold on.
opportunity to finish my questions.
All right, Mylene, I'm gonna go right back to you, but just on what Linda said, Linda, can we ask the organizations to sanitize, but how do we know that they're done properly for the safety of everyone? I think to weigh in, but Mylene has to, and then Mark, and then we're gonna go back to Jackie and Lee.
So I'm not sure how the town playgrounds are being maintained. We were actually directed by New York State Education Department not to use sanitary compounds on that. They were talking about basically soap and water, and really we as a district will be having our kids either use hand sanitizer or wash their hands before going on, and then after they are on during the school day. So should the organizations wipe them down after kids have used them? Yes, but really it's up to the parents to ensure that their children's hands are sanitized before and after use, because that is what we as a school district would be doing. So could we ask them to wipe it down? I guess we could. We could have one groundskeeper at the end of the day go to the 7 different buildings and spend a 4-hour shift and wipe down. But that would also be additional cost to the district. And again, I don't believe that the district is allowed to use taxpayer money for outside organizations' utilization of the grounds. Once again, that would be an attorney question.
That is correct, Linda.
Okay.
If you're going to use additional security, if you're going to use additional custodial staff for the purpose of these outside organizations, that likely would be considered a gift of public funds. So, that probably isn't part of your budget. Money wasn't raised for the outside organizations. So typically there is a cost sheet where, depending on how many hours of custodial time needs to be utilized, that cost is then passed on to the organization that's utilizing your property. Also, with regard to
But that's different with a lease, correct?
Now, the lease, they're responsible
that's not-
for everything. It's like when you rent an apartment. It's yours for that period of time. You're responsible for cleaning. You're responsible for everything having to do with the premises. You
Okay,
relinquish
thank you.
your responsibility with regard to the lease. This is a permit to utilize district property temporarily for a 4-hour period on a Saturday. You're still using it at other times. It is up to those organizations to make sure they comply with CDC recommendations, New York State Department of Health recommendations and guidance and mandates if they're going to run a program. And, they're extensive. So what our suggestion is, if you do permit organizations to utilize your fields, or, I haven't seen any districts allowing indoor use. So I'm just talking about outdoor use at this point.
Okay.
You have them give you a safety plan. It's almost like you were putting together a resolution, Eileen, and it was what I would suggest would be similar. If they are permitted to utilize the fields or whatever the property is, they have to submit simultaneously or at some point their safety plan. That way, even though you're not directly monitoring, if you know that if you get word that they're out of compliance, then you can pull the permit. So that
Okay, okay.
extent of
All right.
your overseeing, we haven't gotten any guidance that says anything different, but if you know that they're utilizing the field, they've submitted a safety plan, you get word, and I would imagine you would get word pretty quickly that it's not being followed, then you can pull the permit. And that could be part of a resolution that you put together, or we could even put some COVID related items as an amendment to your policy for facilities use, so that issue is addressed.
Okay, so now I need to hear from
Well, I wanted to
Mylin,
finish
the
my
rest of her question, and then Mark, and then, yes.
All right, so I'd like just to contribute further to this conversation by stating that there are coaches, high school coaches, middle school coaches that do want to use the fields. Do they have the opportunity to use the fields as well?
At this juncture, the state hasn't given permission for schools to run a sports program. So
are they allowed to do any type of practicing? There's not going to be games, just warm up, stretching, conditioning.
I haven't seen that is permitted at this time. If it's a school run event, which it would be if you have coaches doing it, they haven't opened it up for schools to run that kind of program yet. So really, it's just outside community organizations at this point. That's just the way it is.
So then this is a bit of a tricky situation, because we're allowing outside groups to use our property, which is great. It's community, everybody pays taxes to this, but we're not allowing our inside kids to have opportunities to even have a conditioning warm-ups or anything.
Well, it's not you, it's the governor. It's not like the district is saying you can't do it. The governor is saying, and the department, the New York State Education Department, but it's probably going to change soon. At this juncture, you don't have that permission yet. I think it's going to be revisited very shortly.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Okay, Mark, will you weigh in on this? Do you have anything to add?
I want the kids to be able to use their field. Whatever they want to do, use the field, but it has to be known. It's at their own risk. The parents have to know that. They have to know it's at their own risk. I don't want to hear anything that we let them. It's up to the parents to say, okay. And then they know that they have to follow protocol. That's it. I mean, let's start getting back to some normalcy. I kind of think it's time to do that.
Okay, so, Lisa, how do we put this on the consent agenda or wherever we put it to vote on it? Because I think we need to, as Jackie said, it's been the third time. I thought it was only the second, but it's the third time. I think we do, the community does deserve a vote tonight. I think we've all weighed in. We've all talked about it. How do we put it on the agenda for tonight?
How are we putting it on the agenda?
Well, what I would suggest first is I can put together some draft language. I can put it in the chat room so that it can be seen by everybody. And then you can make a motion to amend the agenda to include this resolution as part of the consent agenda. But I need to know what you want to do. So it appears you want to allow the public to, with the pursuant to your facilities use policy, to use outdoor facilities. Is that
right? Outdoor only, because we know that they're not allowed in, right?
I don't think I got my last 2 cents in before you're doing
Me
this.
neither.
Oh,
Me neither.
okay, then I'm sorry. Then let's go back to Lee. Can you go first, and then we'll throw Jackie in there?
Okay.
Sorry about that.
First of all, Linda, there was only one roving car going around. I requested the second roving car during the season because of things that I brought to the attention of you and Don. So we did have a second one, and it is summertime. There's not a lot going on. Nothing's going on inside. So, I don't think your argument was strong enough that we only have two. We only had one. So being a second one, the first one could have continued doing what they were doing. The second one that we brought on in the middle of summer could have been working the fields more to make sure that it's fair for everybody. So no one sneaks on our property and uses a field that doesn't belong to them. So that's number one. Number two, if you want to put something together to make the groups responsible, and I'll just give you a live example of what I did today. I went to the gym. I had a mask on. I actually put gloves on. And I watched the people. And I watched how they were not following protocol. The mask would be under their nose. They'd pull them all the way down. They weren't, there wasn't enough oversight. When I left the place, I went to the desk and I asked the guy, I said, isn't anyone checking on this? Because no one seems to be following the rules. Your nose is exposed. Now we're expecting a CYO to oversee everything all by himself, when in essence, I think personally, they need a little help. I mean, what does it cost? $40 for a security guard? I think it benefits them. Doesn't hurt them. For the $40 they have to spend for the time, I think it helps them. It takes some of that responsibility away from them, given back to the district, so we make sure all the kids are safe. Because if they just can't do it by themselves. They have other things that they're doing. No disrespect, but it's just a lot of responsibility to take on with no oversight. So if they have to pay for security guard, forget the cleaning, because the kids won't be allowed to go on the playground. I think for the $40 they have to pay, it would help them, not hurt them. That's my stand.
Okay, thank you, Lee. Jackie?
Lee, it's not $40. It's actually $22.
Okay. Okay.
What do we
my
need?
thi-
One at a time. Jackie's up next, please, and then we'll go back to Mylin and Mark.
Okay, my thing is, I like what Lisa said. I like the specific wording in the permit use. I like adding the COVID CDC guidelines and mandates, almost just like the school districts had to give a safety plan. We give a safety plan. This is This puts it back onto the actual youth organization. And while I agree with Mark 100%, it is at their own risk. It is parental choice. It is parental choice. If you're ready for your kids to get back out there, you should have that right to allow them to. That is one. Two, if you are, I agree with Mylin that it stinks that the high school kids and the middle school kids can't get back to our sports programs, but it is not us. It is not the school district. It's not New York State. It's the governor saying only youth sports. And I'm under the assumption that the reason he does that is because most of these youth sports are young kids, and the people who are getting infected, they're like 0.02 of the percent that are actually being affected by COVID. So I'm just saying, I think that that's why he started with the little guys. But either way, this is what I would 100% be for, Lisa. I like that. And Lee, I agree with you that if we need to pay to have more security there, I get it. My whole thing was the equation that I got in an email, in my opinion, was ludicrous. Some of the numbers that were being sent was, in my opinion, lunacy. That to expect some of these organizations that really charge the community a very affordable rate so that they're able for their kids to play. Some people have 3 or 4 kids. And if they want their 3 or 4 kids to play, we need to allow them to keep it affordable, because these kids are a majority of Connecticut kids. So that's my 2 cents. And Lisa, thank you very much. I love the idea that you have the specific wording,
Okay.
CDC guidelines.
Mylin, you're back up.
Yes, follow CDC guidelines, but there needs to be oversight. Ultimately, it is the property of the Connecticut district. And I believe just like we have to keep our inside buildings maintained and follow CDC guidelines and have the custodial staff and have everyone contribute to the safety of our inside buildings, we also need to ensure that outside leagues are following the same things that is expected of the district. So I believe hiring additional security staff on the person who's applying the permit to pay for it. It's $22 an hour. And that's to assure that everybody, and I think it would even take a stress off the people that are looking to use our fields, because it's somebody else that's going to be policing it. Someone's going to be putting forward that only in the family groups would be permitted together, 6 foot difference distance between everybody else, making sure everybody is wearing their mask and making sure that to the best of their ability, again, CDC guidelines are followed.
Mark?
Okay, that's fine. I'm fine with that. You know what? Maybe charge him $200 for 4 hours. Put some sanitizing stations out there. Maybe do a little things for that too, and maybe have masks if people needed masks, and get $200 for that. That's not a lot to ask for. But whatever we do is fine. I want the kids out as long as the parents agree with it. Whichever way we go is fine with me.
Okay, so we can, Lisa, you're going to add the wording, and then we're going to put it on there to vote on it.
Yeah, I'm going to read it to you right now.
Thank you.
And you tell me if it sounds like what you're looking for. The district will permit the use of outdoor facilities for the public via the district's facilities use policy, with the additional mandate that the organization requesting such use provide a safety plan consistent with the New York State Department of Health, New York State Education Department, and CCD COVID-19 mandates, and that such permit may be terminated at the discretion of the board if such use is inconsistent with district policy or safety plan.
Are we going to add something in about the prices?
I think we should add the security piece in.
Yeah, we need to add security.
All right.
Then maybe we should add Don in so he could give us an idea rather than us just be shooting in the dark here.
We're not shooting in the dark. They gave us the prices.
If I'm correct, and Linda,
don't we need the consultant who knows about security, Lee, though, to tell us what he believes we should have as the actual? Maybe we need 2, maybe we need 3, maybe we only need 1. Wouldn't he be the one to tell us that?
What I would
not pay.
Wait,
worried about them paying for it. Now you want them to pay for 3?
Let the lawyer speak. Lisa, go ahead.
What I would suggest is putting that the organization would be responsible for any extra use of custodial maintenance and security at a cost to be determined by the district. Something
That
of
sounds good to me.
Broad, and then
Perfect.
when they come, they'll be provided with a price list or something, and then they can make a determination as to what they want to do.
That sounds good. All right, so you're gonna add that on.
Yep.
Is everyone okay with this? We can move on?
So I just have one
Yes.
question. How are is there bathrooms on these properties? I mean, outdoor
Good
bathrooms?
question, Mylin.
As part of the permit process, the folks who use it for just a specific amount of time, and I would have to look back at the policy, but they need to provide porta potties.
Right.
And it is a specific length of time over which they would need to provide porta potties. We will not be opening the buildings for anybody to use the facilities in our schools at all, though.
I understand that. So that's why I brought up about the porta potty. Who's going to be maintaining those? Who's going to be watching that those are cleaned properly? So is that an added thing for you to consider, Lisa?
Limiting the use of the fields to just the fields and not having access to the buildings?
Well, where are they going to use the restrooms if obviously they can't use the inside buildings? Are they, if somebody has to use the bathroom, what is the precautions or what is allowed in there?
We don't have no bathrooms. Have them drive to the McDonald's or something.
I know, and well, I could just say personally, when I've had, taken my kids to some facilities, the doors are locked, and you just have to kind of find a place for the kids to go to the bathroom. So I'll take a look at your policy and see if it addresses use of how would they have access to the indoor facility? Would it be accessible, or do you want me to say that during the use of the outdoor facility, there shall be no use of the indoor facility, including any restrooms? Is that what the board wants?
Correct. No use of indoor or building bathrooms.
That has to be in the no.
So be it further resolved, there shall be no use of any indoor facilities for these organizations. Okay, it's a very long policy. Okay, so then. So I ended with, and that such permits may be terminated at the discretion of the board if such use is inconsistent with district policy or safety plan. Be it further resolved, the organization shall be responsible for the cost of additional security, custodial, and/or maintenance at a cost to be determined by the district. And be it further resolved that there shall be no use of any indoor facilities for these organizations during their use of such fields. Does that sound
I'm
appropriate?
okay with, yep, that sounds fine to me. Jackie, Mylin, Lee, and Mark?
Yeah, listen,
Yep.
it shouldn't be this complicated considering we've had flu season, we've had swine flu, we've had a lot of things. Nothing's
but we're
changed
doing it.
over the years. Wash
Right.
your hands. Wash your hands.
All right. So can we move on while Lisa and Jesse are working on that?
I'm
So you're gonna-
fine.
So you're gonna
Okay.
make a motion to amend the consent agenda to include, I don't know what number this is, Jesse,
20.
to include number 20, which is what I just.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. All right. The next up is policy. But before we get to that, I just want to, Linda, I'm going to bring this up now. I should have brought it up in the beginning of the meeting. We are not doing public comment tonight. I can just hear everybody groaning out in public right now. Here's what we are going to do. Instead of having public comment tonight, Linda is going, you know what, Linda, I'm going to let you explain what we're going to do.
Okay, so I've already sent the email out to our parents and guardians.
Oh, good. Okay.
It actually went out, I think, around 5 o'clock this afternoon. All of the questions that came in prior to our live stream meetings last week. Monday was elementary, Tuesday was middle, and Wednesday was the high school. We answered all of those questions that came in prior to those meetings live during that meeting. We have emailed to the entire community, all the parents in the community, the answers to the questions that they emailed us after that. So in today's email, there's a bunch of links. 3 are the questions that folks asked us after those meetings. Every single one of those has been answered. It's also on our reopening tab, which is also a link within that email. And the 4th link within that email will be for the community to be able to watch another live stream. And this one is for parents to come in live to ask questions to the majority of the folks in CO and some other folks. We have asked folks to let us know if they want to come and ask questions live on the live stream, because we, in order to enforce social distancing, will give folks a time to come into central office, ask their question on live stream. We will answer it to the best of our abilities, and then the next person will come in and do the same. So if anyone in the community is listening now, you have an email from me with all of those answers. And you also have an email from me. If you had another question you wanted to ask, please put it in that survey. And if you wanted to ask something live, please give us, well, you have to give us your email in order to submit it. Just let us know you want to ask live, and we will email you with a time.
Linda, I also want to ask, what time is that beginning? And how long are you going to take questions for? And are we going to have, I did suggest what Sachem did. They had a screen outside, so the people that are waiting outside to come in and ask their questions can see the question that is being asked. Because obviously they'll be in the parking lot. They won't have access to the live stream.
They would be able to live stream on their phone, but it's supposed to pour on Thursday night.
Okay.
So I don't think we'll be able to set up a screen. However, to be honest with you, we've answered hundreds and hundreds of questions. In fact, the documents that we sent to the community today, the high school document is about 22 pages long. So I think the majority of the questions have been answered. If folks would just take a look at those questions, as well as the PowerPoints that we sent home that are in that reopening tab, I think the majority of the questions have been answered.
There may be 1 or 2 more though, and that's why we're doing this. But what time is it starting then?
It's going to start at 6, and we're going to, we're going to give people 5-minute appointments.
Okay.
And then when the last person has come through, then we'll be done. Right now, there's very few people who want to be there live. And, we will, and all the questions that have been sent to me will have direct responses to folks' emails. And if it seems to be a frequently asked question, then we'll also put it up on the website.
Perfect. And so this gives the public an opportunity to come in and speak their piece. Even if you don't have a question, you can come in and you can tell us your concerns, because that's something that we need to know as well.
Right.
And hopefully, if you have concerns, if you have a solution or an idea, that's even better, because I mean, this is all new to everyone. So at this point, I think every idea is great. Linda, thank you for doing that.
We've had some really good ideas from the public. Very good.
Linda, can you put this up on the district Facebook page? Because I see that
Good
people
idea.
tend to radiate to that.
Good idea,
Sure.
Mylin.
I can put the survey link up. Sure.
Okay, great. All right,
Well,
moving
no,
on.
no, all the frequently asked questions too, Linda, if you could put that up on the Facebook district website, page.
Yeah,
Oh,
Facebook,
sure.
everybody, yeah, there's a lot of people on Facebook.
Okay, there is one more thing that I'm going to ask the board to discuss before we move on to the policy. And that is, now that Governor Cuomo has stated that we can potentially begin interscholastic sports as of September 21st, we do have multiple teams in the district that are joint teams with other districts. And I just wanted to give the board an opportunity to, you don't have to make the decision tonight, but the discussion is, we've been trying to limit impact of folks, by not having anyone in the building, by having A days and B days, by having, small groups of kids, limit exposure to others. It's just something to think about. We've done this for years on multiple teams. But the board, if the board wants to think about whether or not this might be the year that we decide not to have those co-join teams to limit the exposure of our kids on a daily basis. I mean, obviously, if our kids are playing in an interscholastic competition, they will be coming into contact with other children from other districts, but they won't have that as a face-to-face every day because they won't be their teammate. So it was just something that I thought the board should consider and think about. And, obviously I just wanted to bring it up, and then you don't have to vote on it tonight, or you can just say move ahead, and we'll those teams right now are in place with Section 11 to remain as inter-district teams.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna move on to policy.
Yes.
Linda, I'm looking on the board docs, and I know we talked about this at the agenda meeting, that we were gonna put this up for the first reading, but I don't have a copy of it to have the first reading.
Because it's a regulation. So it's really for the edification of the board rather than being a policy.
Okay, but I don't even have that.
It's on the attachment under regulation.
Oh, under regulation, that's why I couldn't see it. Okay, so I didn't read it yet.
I have questions.
Okay, I didn't read it yet, so I mean, the first reading is not a problem. I can come back on the second reading, but I didn't read it yet.
These aren't readings. This is a draft of a regulation. Regulations are the purview of the administration. One of the things that we're looking at right now, because we're in the COVID situation and things are a little bit more fluid, we're looking at our policies and adding COVID regulations to them. So we have an acceptable use policy for our internet that is already in place.
Okay.
And we were looking to add this as the second regulation to that policy to really begin to safeguard the privacy of our teachers, our students, and staff who are using online learning platforms.
Okay, Mylene, you have questions? I don't, because I didn't read it, so I'll have questions next time.
Yes, I do have a few questions.
Go
So
ahead.
Linda, could you explain what does this term mean, social unrest?
Oh, that's just in case the schools are closed because there's something going on. It's a list of reasons why the school district might be closed.
Can you supply the board with that particular list? Because I've never heard that term before, social unrest. It could
So
have a fluid of different meanings. I mean, I could think of different meanings, but I want to be more specific to how you mean it.
So if there was some kind of a protest, a violent protest, and we needed to close for the safety of our kids, that's really what that's about. It's just really some ideas of how the school could be closed. We could take that out. We're really just kind of looking at all the situations that might occur to have the school have to be closed.
I wasn't asking you to take it out. I just wanted to be more specific on what that meant.
Okay.
Okay, so with the district announcing a snow day, can you define what does it mean by prolong? Is it a day? Is it 2 days, 3 days? Or you don't want to be pigeonholed into giving a specific day or amount of days?
I'd rather not be pigeonholed because a lot of the school districts, and not necessarily on Long Island, but in other parts of the country that have robust online presence or hybrid presence, they no longer consider themselves closed for emergency weather conditions. So if there was a blizzard and we were out even one day, we could potentially say, you know what, folks, sign on to your online platform and we will have a closed day, which will actually count toward the attendance. And that way we would have that nice long weekend around Memorial Day.
Great. My one last question is the student absence. Now, how does this relate to that regulation?
Student absence, meaning what?
I took it as like, say if a kid was out because they had the flu or God forbid COVID or for any medical procedures or things like that. Am I kind of overthinking what you meant by student absence?
No, not at all. So we have been talking to the community about the fact that since we now have the opportunity for our 6th graders to our 12th graders to be virtual every other day, a lot of the parents were concerned that if a child needed to be quarantined because they potentially might have been exposed to someone who had COVID, they can now go online and learn online until they come back to school in person. So we have offered to the parents that if a child has the sniffles, please don't send them to school, because if we send you home because you're experiencing a COVID symptom, you must go to your doctor to get a return, a release to return to school. So if your child is just has some allergies and you know, their eyes are runny and they just don't feel well, but it's not COVID related, please keep them home and they can log on. And as long as they follow their full day schedule and they do all of the work that the teachers have given them for that day, then that day will count toward their instruction and not as an absence. If a kid has mononucleosis with 102 fever and they are unable to, you know, log on and really focus and function, then the parents should let them have the day as an absence, and you know, the attendance credit policy would prevail. But after a specific amount of time that a kid is unable to do that, they would get compensatory makeup work, as if, you know, if it was even a regular year.
So no, is this a platform that we can use in the future? God willing that COVID will be over soon, that we may have a child that may be out with the flu or again, a medical procedure or things like that. That's something that they will be more in tune with their class that's going on. Is it something a tool that we can use in the future?
It
Or a
could be,
platform?
ma'am. It could be, you know, once we stop though, you know, once COVID goes away, if we're not live streaming every day, or we don't have a viable platform that we're using every day, it may be more difficult. But right now, it's going to work in the favor of the student who just doesn't feel well but can log on, and, you know, but doesn't feel well enough to go to school, but can log on and be part of it. So I wouldn't extend that into the future just yet, but potentially.
Thank you.
I had one question, and for the life of me now, I can't remember. So I'll wait and ask the next time. Lee, do you have any questions?
No, I read the whole thing. I don't have any questions.
I'm sorry, I didn't read it. I didn't realize I couldn't find it. So I will read it and I will get back to you with questions. Mark, do you have any questions?
I'm good.
Jackie?
No.
Okay, so we are moving on to, hold on, I'm gonna get my, sorry about that. Stepped away from my computer for a moment. Where's my cheat sheet? There it is. Okay, next would be, again, like I said, public comment, which we are going to do Thursday. And I hope a lot of people go down there and ask your questions. I saw a lot of questions on Facebook, valid concerns, valid questions, ABD questions. Go down, ask your question in public, get your answers. Everybody else will get the answers as well. I think it'll help a lot. The FAQ is very extensive. I know a lot of people start to read it and it's time consuming. So I really hope you go down there. The next is
Eileen, are you gonna give the board an opportunity to ask questions?
on Thursday?
No, now.
No, today.
Yeah, can we do that at the end though? We'll have each board member can bring up something.
Sure, thank you.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay,
Because
but
then
I
we
do
also,
have,
Go ahead, Lee.
you were just talking about, can parents, rather than go down, could they also send more questions?
Yes,
Well,
on the survey, there is a slot to ask questions that they will get personally emailed the answer back.
But Linda, can you also put those, the personal emails are great and and thank you for doing that, but other people may have the same question and just don't have the time, or, you know, and then the questions pops up on Facebook. So if you can answer those questions, even if it's not a frequently asked question, if it's a valid question, you know, and it doesn't pertain to a particular child, can we put that on the FAQ as well? And I know it's
Sure.
very extensive and you've done a lot of work. Thank you for that.
No problem. Most
All
of
right,
these
so-
questions that I'm looking at right now that have been put up there have been answered on the FAQs, but I will certainly answer them
But-
again.
Yeah, but even if we get, like I said, some people don't have the time to read all of them because there are a lot. So I
Yep.
appreciate that you're doing this in public so that sometimes it's easier to watch it than to read it.
Sure.
Okay, so, and our board we'll all have a chance to ask some questions at the end, right before we go into our second exec. Okay, is that good? Yes, no, maybe?
Yes, as long as the board can have questions to
Yes,
ask at the end.
absolutely, absolutely. All right, so the next one is recommended action personnel matters. I need a motion in a section, and a second to discuss Schedule 1.
Motion, second,
Okay, does anybody have any questions?
No question.
no,
Me neither. So I need an all in favor to accept Schedule 1 resignations, terminations, and leaves of absences.
Aye.
aye.
I need Mark and I think Lee.
I said aye.
Aye.
Oh, okay. I
Didn't
didn't
hear
hear you, Lee. Sorry. Just say our names after you say aye, so that we can do it in order. So Jesse can hear it all. Schedule 2, I need a motion in a second to discuss. Schedule 2
Motion,
appointments.
Jackie.
Thank you. Appointment senior salary changes.
Second, Lee.
Thank you. Any questions?
No,
No.
Okay. I need a all in favor.
aye.
Aye,
Lee.
Mark.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye,
Mylan.
Jackie.
Lee?
I said aye, Lee.
Sorry, I for Eileen. Next is J, recommended action for financial matters. Do we have a J? Yeah,
Treasurer's report.
right, the treasurer's report. I need a motion and a second to discuss.
Motion,
I'll second. Any questions?
Yes, where are the other rest of the financials, or that's not usually on an August agenda?
That will be on more than likely the late September meeting. And that's because our auditors were in just last week and we still have adjusting entries to put in. So those reports will not be finalized until the end of September.
Okay, I will have many questions when that becomes live.
Linda, I have one question on that transfer. Can you
Yes.
clarify
Really?
that transfer for me?
That would be Miss Villarreal as well.
Okay, Bridget, the $206,000 transfer that we already approved, can you explain why we're doing it again and how, if we have to do anything to unapprove the first one?
We don't have to do anything to unapprove it. The reason why I'm redoing it is because I'm trying
Somebody's
to
got a TV on. You can't do something. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm redoing it because I'm trying to keep everything that's COVID and pandemic related within that same realm altogether. So I'm going back another time to keep everything with contingency funds in contingency funds.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. So it will only be transferred once.
Correct.
All right. Does anybody have any other questions? I'm going to take that as a no. I need an
I
all in
said no.
favor to approve the financial matters.
Aye.
Aye by Eileen.
Aye
Aye.
by Lee. Can you not hear me?
Yeah, I heard you, Lee. Thank you.
Aye, Jackie.
Waiting on Mark.
I said it. I'll do it again. Aye, Mark.
Okay, we didn't hear you, Mark. All right, the next one is the consent agenda. I need a motion and a second to have any discussion on the consent agenda.
Mylan, motion.
Lee
Eileen will,
second.
Lee will second. Any questions? I'll go last.
Mark, did you have the opportunity to look at the quality of mask on Monday?
I spoke to somebody about them. They said the clear mask, a little uncomfortable, but if the teachers want to use them, I think it's a good idea to order some, but I would let a couple of teachers try them first, and I think Linda said she had some samples, and the other masks were fine too.
Did we-
Unfortunately, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, get finish, Mark.
No, that's it. That's good. They're fine.
So Mark, could you also share your experience and with the thermal scans?
Well, I think Gail was there too. Actually, she wasn't at the second one, but Linda was there, and so was John. Are you there, John, also? Are you here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am,
Anyways, okay. We had two presentations set forth for us. By far, there was one presentation that outshined the other presentation. It was a little bit more muddy, but actually, based on what Gail was saying from the first presentation and the things that we needed, the first presentation fit all the things that we needed and was the proper call to get. And I thought it was actually something that will help the district, not only this, but for time going forward.
Thank you, Mark. So did we end up going on the consent agenda with the logo or not the logo? And how much was the cost per mask?
You asking me?
Sorry, Mark, I meant that for Linda.
Okay.
So we did look at the last agenda, and the board actually rejected the bid for the masks with the logos. And unfortunately, that company did not put in for the rebid. So we do not have any legal way to go with the original bid. Mrs. Sharrett actually reached out to that company to find out if they were going to rebid, and they did not, even with no logo. So I don't exactly know how much. They're a little bit more expensive, the ones that we're about to award, but we do need a vehicle and a weight in order to get these kind of more hardy masks to have for our students and faculty and staff. Right now, we're looking at disposable masks, which are significantly more expensive because you have to provide one every day than these. So we do need a way to purchase these.
So
How are we-
are the
okay.
logo masks cheaper on the last bid than these that we're purchasing now with no logo?
Yes.
No,
So can we-
Linda, they're not cheaper. The bid that we got now was not cheaper. What we need to learn from here on in, whenever we do have something that we're not sure of, that we don't vote it down, we table it. I spoke to Jesse about that today to make sure that this never happens again, because we really should have never voted something down, and we should know this anyway. I mean, I would think we would know this. I'm not going to put the blame on anybody, but we need to know this moving forward. This should never happen.
I'll take the blame for that. I didn't know that we had to table it rather than reject it. So
I have to say, the board was
Somebody to
pretty
blame. What I'm
adamant.
saying is, we need to know to table it. When we're not sure if we can get a cheaper price on something, we table it, and we come back and say, okay, we couldn't get a cheaper price.
You know what I don't understand is why are we worried about, I wouldn't worry about paying less per se, as what's the better quality and are they comfortable for these kids? Because are the teachers going to be all right with them and are the kids going to be all right with them? Because when I think of a plastic mask, and I'm sorry, Jesse, I wanted to come on Monday and I got called into work. Not for nothing, but the plastic, I just could see the plastic being very uncomfortable. I like the idea that they'd be able to see the face, but that's what I'm saying.
Jack.
I think. Go ahead, Mark. I was letting you talk.
I think
No,
something
I said
happened.
that's what I said. The plastic ones are more uncomfortable, but maybe for the teachers or certain classes where they want to have their facials and some teachers want to let the kids see their faces, they can use them if they're comfortable with them. They're definitely not as comfortable.
Are we buying one per student or two?
So you need to buy one a month. That's actually they're only good for a month according to the manufacturers. So my suggestion would be that the board approves both of these bids, and that way we can give people a choice. We can give teachers a choice and students a choice. We never have to buy. If we can say yes to a bid and then never go ahead with a large purchase. And I think that's what Mark was saying earlier, that we should have tabled that, and that way we could have gone back to that bid. But now that was rejected, we have no way to go back to it. So my suggestion today is push both of them forward, and then we can allow people to say, you know what, I'll never wear this, or maybe 100 people will wear this, where the other 700 teachers don't want that one. So we can order from both and both vendors.
Linda, I have one question. One a month, aren't they washable?
They are, but the manufacturer's recommendation is that they begin to break down after being washed and used that often, and you're supposed to have one a month.
Okay, thank you.
And we're still giving teachers and students and all staff the opportunity that they'll get these, but to wear whatever they're comfortable wearing, correct? I remember you saying that.
Yes, they can wear their personal masks. Quite frankly, I found a brand that I like, and I'm not deviating from that brand no matter what anybody hands me. So, you know, if a teacher says I don't want it, that's fine. We have them, and we'll have them for them if they need one.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, does anybody have more questions on the agenda, or is it my turn?
Your turn.
Oh, yay. Okay. I don't have that many tonight. Aren't you all lucky? Linda, the suspension of the policy for the admission of foreign students, if we suspend it, we talked about this, but I want the public to hear it. If we suspend it, does that mean that anybody can come in and come to our school? How does that work?
No, the only people who can legally attend Connecticut schools are students and parents who live within the Connecticut boundaries. So if a foreign exchange student comes in, they're not living within the Connecticut boundaries. Their real home is not within the Connecticut boundaries. They're not entitled to be schooled in our schools. So once this policy is rescinded, we will not even accept applications from anyone who is a foreign exchange student to come into the district.
Okay. There was a senior class donation of the new CHS sign.
Which is not on here. You will notice it is gone. Mr. Moran didn't realize because that there was the installation as well, that it needed to go through the business office in order to make sure that they had all the appropriate permits and insurance. So once we've looked through all that, we'll make sure that that's in place, and then we'll put it back on.
So it's not, okay, so I had the old paperwork, not the new one. So that's not
Correct.
even on the agenda. Good, okay.
Yes.
The prints, Board of Education, except the $3.82 check that we're depositing. Just explain that
that's
to
a
the
big
public.
one.
Yes, woohoo!
That'll buy a mask.
Yeah,
So
there you go.
these are the companies who create the faux Connecticut gear that you can sometimes see in Rite Aid or Walmart or local organizations. And when some of those are purchased, we get a big fat check for them.
Woohoo!
So that's the one.
I was just curious what that was. I asked you about the instructional service agreements for, which one was it? What the heck is the name of this one?
Behavioral strategies and beyond boundaries.
Little Flower was the first one.
Yes.
Do we pay if no kids use it?
No.
Okay. And then there were several consultant contracts that I hadn't seen before. I wasn't sure if I saw before. So I asked you if they were new.
They are not new.
They are not new.
all-
We have used them in the past.
Correct.
I'm not gonna ask about that one. That doesn't matter. Oh, I did want to know, there was a school bus detailing, and the pricing, the price sheets were a little, they weren't clear. Can you explain the pricing on this?
Ms. Villarreal, you want to fill them in on how we're getting our buses cleaned?
Just the pricing, because some of them, the way it looked was just weird.
I had another PDF added to the board doc. So if you
Okay.
go in there, there's a better description of everything.
All right, I'll go right now.
So there were a couple different vendors that came back. Fleet Wash came back at the least expensive. The most expensive was from Restoration Suffolk. It was $215 per bus or van, totaling $27,000. The cheapest, which is Fleet Wash, bus is $52 each, van $42 each, a total of $6,230.
Okay, that makes more sense. Let me ask you one more question that I didn't think of earlier. Who used to wash it? Do we always have a detailing company, or is this because of COVID?
No, this is because of COVID, and this is really more because our buses have sat since March. So this would just be a one-time detailing just for the interior.
Okay,
They wouldn't use any
we're not
pure
violating.
bleach. They wouldn't. Go ahead.
We're not violating any contracts, correct?
No, absolutely not. And this is just to ensure everybody's safety. And then going forward, as students are on the bus drivers would be responsible to wipe down after
Okay.
runs.
All right, and I just saw the budget transfer was not on the financial matters, it's on here, but you already explained that to me. So I am finished.
I have one thing, I'm sorry.
Okay, go
Eileen?
ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
I know we got a letter from the Transportation CTA about the bus runs. I just want to make sure that they are time efficient, that we'll be okay in the morning, because she spoke about the traffic with the kids getting dropped off and stuff like that, especially at the high school. Are we trying to develop a good plan and trying to make kids come in a little early that drive to school? I'm just trying to find out we're going to be able to, I know it's going to be a little sketchy at the beginning, but are we trying to come up with something that might work a little better?
So you're talking about the email that you received?
Yes, about the, with the bus runs, and I know they have a couple of runs, and they're concerned about the traffic at the high school and stuff. And I'm just wondering if we're having the kids that drive to school come in a little earlier, so this way there's less traffic for the buses and stuff. I'm just looking out so you guys don't have more problems as the day comes. That's why, I know we can't avoid it totally, but maybe we can have some kind of plan. The kids that drive to school, tell them, listen, if you're driving to school, you got to come at a certain time.
So we're actually, a lot of our seniors are opting to have a shortened day, which they're entitled to as seniors in good standing. So we're actually expecting a lot of our seniors to maybe not come in first period and come in second period instead. So we're hoping that will, stop the bottleneck a little bit. We will have only half the students on campus at any one time this year. So not that we'll have half the cars, but we should have, fewer cars than we normally would. I know that the email talked about opening Hill Drive. We unfortunately do not have a full road that goes out to Hill Drive. We have a path, 6 inches or 8 inches of asphalt. We do not have an actual road. And the way the fields are on the backfield, the JV baseball diamond, the varsity and JV softball diamonds, they're too close to the field, the line of our property for us to actually have a real paved road there. So this is something that's been spoken about many, many times, and there's really never going to be a way to open up that back road and allow that to be for traffic, just for the safety of not having a real road back there. We are not, unfortunately, Mark, because we will be having kids go through the scanners. We're going to start manning the scanners at 7 o'clock in the morning for a couple different reasons. The first is that our faculty and staff are not on duty until 7:06. So we don't want to have kids hanging out in the hallways, being tempted to not socially distance. And we also need to make sure that we have our thermal scans up and operational. So we're actually going to hold the kids on the bus significantly later than we used to. We used to let the kids off the bus at 6:40. I did have a couple parent questions that asked me about if a child had a pass to study extra help, would they be allowed off the bus? And of course, that answer is yes. If the child is taking the bus to school and they have a pass for extra help to a teacher, they'd be allowed off and in the building earlier. But by and large, the majority of our students will not be entering the building until 7 a.m.
Perfect. Thanks, Linda. Thanks, Dr. Adams.
No problem.
I'm good, Eileen.
Did we lose Eileen? I think we lost Eileen.
Sorry, I was muted. And
Yes.
I thought I was muted, and I thought I unmuted, and I didn't. Sorry about that. I'm talking a whole storm. I just said the whole thing, so just agree with me. No, I'm just kidding. So I want to make a motion now to accept the consent agenda items 2 through 20 because we added that last one. So I need a motion and a second to accept the consent.
Wait a second. we're at K. You're at K2?
I'm at,
I'm
the-
so
yeah,
confused.
I'm at the
Okay.
entire consent agenda. We just
Right, but
asked a whole
number
bunch of questions.
2 is when, right, I didn't get to ask. You guys all asked and then we just, I was
I
waiting.
asked if anybody else had more questions.
Well, I had questions about the school reopening.
Okay, but that I asked if we could do that. That's Linda's PowerPoint plan that we've all seen. Can we accept, let me ask the lawyer. Can we accept the consent agenda and then the board still has questions? Or should we wait and talk about the reopening plan and then do the consent agenda?
I mean, if the board is comfortable accepting it, even though it has questions, then you can do that. I mean, that's fine. You can, and then you could revisit
Jackie,
it.
do you want to do that and then have your questions afterwards?
Yeah,
Well, I can
actually, it's a good
abstain.
idea because I did have questions about the opening too.
I
All
could
right, so then you
abstain.
know
That
what?
was
We
the
won't
only
accept
thing
it.
that I was,
Okay, wait. We won't do the consent agenda yet. At this time, then we'll just talk about the reopening plan. Lee said she had questions. She said it first. I'm gonna let Lee go first, then Jackie, then Mylin. Okay?
Okay.
All right, Lee, you are up. This is your time to shine. If anybody has anything to add about the reopening.
Okay, I have 2 topics. First, I'm going to talk about music department. I was online and they have covers for the woodwinds and they have covers for the brass. That when kids are playing the instruments, it protects the instrument for spitting out the saliva or whatever it does. And from what I read, a couple of companies make it. I don't know if the music department knows about it yet. I'm sure they do. I don't know if they brought it up to you. I don't know. But I have a funny feeling that it's something that we should really look into and consider purchasing. So these kids, it's not good for a flute, I don't think, but it's good for the other instruments. I think it's important that we cover those instruments so these kids can play and take that next step, because if we have to wear something on our face, I think the instrument should be covered because kids can't wear anything on their face. So Dr. Adams, if you could look into that before school starts.
Yeah, I'll take that question. I met with Mr.
Dean?
Rockman today. Yes.
I can't hear you.
I met with Mr. Rockman today.
Still can't hear you.
Okay. Is that better?
Much better.
Is that better?
Yes, it is.
Sorry. I met with Mr. Rockman today. We went through the covers for the wind and horn instruments. He is in the process of getting a price for it. Obviously, it's will be a significant cost to the district. He's not convinced yet that it is will add any additional protection, but he is researching it. I will get back to the board with his summary.
Okay, that's my question number 1. Do I get my second question, Eileen?
Lee, go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, Lee, you're up.
All right, the high school. A lot of the decisions that were, okay, I'm gonna go back to me being in the gym again. I couldn't take it anymore because no one was following the rules. They're taking their masks off, they're putting them down below their nose, they're doing all that. So I went to the desk and I said, is anyone supervising this? He goes, we're short-staffed. I said, then maybe they shouldn't open if you're short-staffed. Because if you want me to come in here and follow the rules, I would expect everyone else to follow the rules. So now I'm going to segue to the high school. What we did last year, I personally feel, set the high school up for failure. More so now than ever before, because we lost our head of guidance, we lost the dean, and we lost an AP. I listened to some of the people online, what they were talking about, especially I listened to one teacher in particular because she's a high school teacher. How do they handle the kids? And there are going to be plenty of kids not following the rules because naturally they get sloppy. They want to breathe. They might pull it down below their nose. We don't have enough staff up there to pull a kid aside. We can't expect the parents to do it all at home before they leave. We'd like to see that happen, but kids are kids. I think we should bring back our dean of students. We should bring back, have at least another AP. And I don't know what's going on in guidance, but I would like to hear later on from the superintendent what they're doing. But I think if we don't bring back the dean.
Lee, I'm going to cut you off really quickly for that. We've already had legal guidance from that. The people that voted for that are the only ones that are allowed to bring that back up. So
we all voted.
Yes, but you were I hate to say it like this.
Well, I'm just trying to advocate that we need him. We need him right now for our kids. There were no kids. I wouldn't be saying.
Lee, I understand what you're doing, but that has to be brought up by Jackie, myself, or Mark in order for a revote to happen. That's my point.
Oh, I wasn't specifically talking about a person. I was talking about a position.
Okay. I understand what you're saying. Nobody wants the high school to fail. I think we've all discussed this. We're not going to let the high school fail. We are going to make sure that Mr. Moran, who is the principal there, has the support that he needs right now with the half days and all that. Linda's putting in that online policy. And I think it's not for discussion tonight. I think it will be for discussion when we actually see what we need, because maybe we need more than one. Maybe we need 4. Who knows? None of us here, I think, are against helping the kids and the high school and any school to succeed. So
I know
right now we don't know what's going on. So all I'm saying is we don't know what's going on. I don't want to, we have enough issues to deal with. At this point, I think that, we should wait until we know if we need 1 person, 6 people, 7, who knows what we need. But
right.
Lee,
Well, my experience,
none of us are adverse to doing that.
My experience today in the gym gave me an idea of what might go on in the high school. That's why I brought it up in that sense, because they were not staffed enough to handle very few people in the gym. So I can't imagine what might go on in a high school and how that can be handled. And how do you handle it? I know Linda to talk about,
I'm going to interrupt for 1 second. Jackie, on camera, you have some sort of writing. You might want to remove that.
Now, Linda, do you have a plan in place?
Sorry about
Linda, Dr. Adams?
A plan in place for what exactly?
Well, how are you going to, what are you going to do if kids walk down the hallway with no mask? Are they going to be sent home? Are they going to be talked to? I mean, is there a protocol?
So the administrative staff of the secondary schools is meeting with Mrs. Santo to put together a part of the code of conduct, because that would be insubordination, but geared toward mask usage. And honestly, with only 2 APs and a principal in the building responsible for all of those hallways, it's likely that some of that's going to fall through the cracks.
Okay, again, I'm going to reiterate that we are not going to let the high school fail. I am sure that we can discuss that at a later date. Right now, there's, A days and B days. There's only half the kids. So I'm going to ask that we move on from that subject.
Well, Eileen, I have a different idea. And since I'm one of the people who voted against it, I could technically, I guess, motion to bring it up, right? Yes?
Yeah, you could, but at this time, I think my opinion would be to wait a few.
Well,
but you can bring it up all you want.
Okay, well, the reason I'm saying it is to go off of Lee. And since, Mylin, I'm not cutting, you could ask all your questions before me. I'm just bringing this one thing up. I believe, I guess I'll advocate for it because I may not be able to bring up the one of the elementary schools, but the other one I can. There were 2 elementary schools that I think could use an assistant principal to go half and half, at least, at the very least. And at the high school level, I said from day one that I would always reevaluate what I was looking at. I still do not see the necessity to add somebody permanently, to bring a position back permanently, but I would vote for or be for adding somebody temporarily as an interim, as we've done last year, to have an interim for a few months, so that if, God forbid, let's just say we close down because of COVID and go remote, then at least, I mean, I hope that doesn't happen, but if it does, then at least this is somebody we wouldn't have to worry about what they're doing, if they're getting paid or any of that. I'm just saying, I would be for making an interim for the next 60 to 90 days from the beginning of school, just to help and see how things are going. If things are going fine, then with an interim, we don't have to keep, we could always say, okay, that's the end of it. But I really do think the first week of school, the first month of school, we're going to need all hands on deck. That's what I personally believe. So I would motion for something like that. If anybody would second me, then that would be fine.
All right, Mylene, you have questions?
Yes, I do. So, one of the questions is, now that everybody's going to be wearing a mask, I'm sure it's going to be very hard to identify an adult, a child wearing a mask. How do we identify our adults and children who are wearing masks when they're entering our building?
Doesn't everybody have ID cards? Can we get them lanyards and put them around their necks?
So we did provide, we are purchasing. So all of our adults have red lanyards that say Connecticut School District on them. We have been asking folks to wear them for years. We're going to mandate their wearing because we need folks to be identifiable, because now we're only seeing eyes and eyebrows. So all of the adults in all of our buildings will be wearing their red lanyards with their Connecticut Central School District IDs on them, which is their swipe cards to get them in and out of the building. For our middle school and our high school, rather than waiting for, well, actually our middle school, OBMS and the high school use the same photography company, and they produce an ID, but that takes weeks. So what we've done, and RMS does not use that same company, so they never get that ID. So instead, what we have done is purchased a couple of ID printers, because we are going to mandate that kids in grades 6 through 12 wear the ID. And what's great about having the ID created in-house is that we can put whatever we want on that identification badge. So we will have a picture of the child, we will have the name of the school, we will have the grade that they are in. They will have a barcode on the bottom, which can be used at the register for scanning for purchasing of grab and go food, which is how we're serving food this year. And on the back of those cards, there will be some hotline numbers that are kind of safety and security hotline. First of all, our security number, but as well as the suicide prevention hotline and some other hotlines to help kids if they're having any kind of trouble. And the QR code, which the parent will scan with their cell phone and allow and fill out every day to say that they're sending their child to school healthy, and and the health assessment questions that are now in the COVID age will be on that QR code as well. So that will fill into a Google Doc, and we will have the ability to see what parents have said their children are fine and should be in school, and the parents who have not done that, we will make some phone calls, because we know that New York State Education Department really would like the parents to take responsibility for making sure that kids are coming to school healthy every day. And, thank you to the board for giving us the opportunity to purchase the thermal scanners. So we do have a second safeguard. So those kids will be allowed in the building, even though the parents haven't filled out the attestation. It will give us some time to get to the parents to say, this is something, please, that you need to do every day. And if their child has a fever, we'll be able to see that on the thermal scan when they come in, and they will be taken to the isolation room. So we will be having IDs. High school ID lanyard is black with white lettering. And I'm going to forget what the middle schools chose, but they are different colors. So that way a child can't come to one of the other schools in the district and expect to walk in because they're wearing a ConnectWhat badge. They're different lanyards for each one of the secondary schools.
Okay, so do I assume that the substitute security, anybody who's actually working in our building, whether permanent or temporary, will have a badge with their picture on it?
So we tend not to give a picture badge to the folks who are extremely temporary. We do take the picture of anyone who is a more permanent sub, that may be a leave replacement or along those lines, but we do have badges that say substitute. We do have badges that say contractor, and those are handed out when the substitute or the contractor comes to the building that morning, along with the plans or anything else that they need to follow for the day.
So that driver license is scanned and it's in the system?
Correct.
I am assuming there are no visitors in any of the buildings.
Only contractors who would be there for some kind of contracted work. No visitors in the building this year.
Okay, so my next question is that normally the Board of Ed visits the buildings prior to a school opening. I'm assuming that we will probably not be allowed in the buildings.
We can make an arrangement, with social distancing and appropriate PPE for the board to do a walkthrough.
Okay, so my next question is, I know this seems to be a bit of a hot topic on the social media pages, is the cleaning. Could you get a little bit more specific with the cleaning so that it kind of eases the minds of parents and staff? How extensive we are?
Can I jump in on Mylene's question? Because I just want to get a little more specific. Not only the cleaning, but I also heard we got some trailers, and I want to know if those, what is going in those trailers? What are they doing with that? And if it's personal belongings, we're storing them. Like, can you also elaborate on that along with the cleaning process? Thank you, Mylene, too, for bringing that up.
I'm going to throw that question to John Allen.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. So I'll start with the easy one, which is the trailers. We've gone to each of the buildings and we shared with all the staff that our goal to increase our ability to clean and to clean in a more effective and time reasonable manner will only be achieved if we are able to reduce the amount of touch surfaces throughout the buildings. So in many of the buildings, many of the classrooms, we are removing extra tables, extra chairs, extra desks. If it's only going to be 13, 14 children in a classroom, we're removing the other 10 desks so that we don't have to worry about those becoming an additional touch surface throughout the course of the day. We are doing our best to keep those items going into the trailers to simple, basic furniture, things that will be able to be cleaned off in the future since they're not going to be in an environmentally controlled setting. Any of the other items, classroom teachers that may need a set of bookcases or a file cabinet or things of that nature, if they can stay in the room without becoming an impediment and slowing down the cleaning process, we're allowing them to stay there because we do not want to impact negatively the instructional process any more than is already going to happen inevitably through this whole process. But if there are items that we can move, we're either moving them into a cafeteria, another common room, someplace of that nature, so that the teachers will be able to access them throughout the course of the school year as they need them to continue doing the work that they do in the classrooms. Does that answer the trailer component of it?
Yes, for me, yes, thank you.
Okay, as far as cleaning, we, as a plant facility department, we are working constantly with all of the building principals to identify how they're using their respective buildings, looking at the classroom utilization, looking at when they're scheduling their lunch, looking at all the variables that go into the revised school day as it looks. And then we are going to be getting into those classrooms either as the classes change. So if an elementary student is in a classroom the entire day, the need to get in there and clean is a little less because there's not a changeover of students. But in some of the older grades, when we have kids moving from room to room, we're going to be looking for all those free periods that exist in the schedule so that we can send the entire custodial staff out in mass and clean those areas to the greatest depth we possibly can. Obviously, we'll be cleaning all of the hallways, the gang bathrooms, all the high-touch areas, the water fountains, doorknobs, light switches, all of the things in that nature throughout the course of the day as well. So, like I said, we're going to be looking for those gaps in the schedule that rooms are not being utilized, as well as all the common areas throughout the course of the day. In order to keep track of this, we're going to be maintaining logs for each space so that we're going to be able to see that, yes, it was cleaned AM, PM, that it was cleaned, in what manner, to what extent, what did the time allow, and who actually did that cleaning. So we have a little bit of accountability and understanding as to how we have to fine-tune things from day to day if need be. Does that help with the cleaning component?
John, I just have one question. From what I'm hearing, though, there's some personal items that we're storing in the trailer.
So, we're giving the staff, and a lot of the staff members took advantage of an opportunity to come into the buildings a week or two ago and look at their rooms. I have shared with everybody that anything that goes in the trailer, while it's a blessing, I can't guarantee it's going to come out completely intact. So if a teacher says, listen, this is the chair that I always use during reading time, and it's not something I'm going to need this year because reading time is going to look a little bit differently.
No, John,
but
I'm talking about something that a teacher brought in from her home or his home, and it belongs to them. From what I'm hearing, it's going in the trailer. And now we're kind of responsible for that.
Well, we have, I've been telling everybody that we can't worry about everything that's in the trailer. If a teacher asked the custodial staff in the building if they could put something in the trailer, I'm not going to slow down the process of streamlining these rooms. It's to everybody's benefit to work with the teachers as much as we possibly can.
No, I totally get that. I just don't want to be, if something happens to that personal item, I don't want the district to be responsible.
Understood. And we didn't get to the point where we had people sign waivers or anything else, but I believe I've been pretty clear with all of the principals and all of the custodians that we can't ensure that anything that goes into the trailer, because we have no idea how long it's going to be in there, is going to come out that's going to come out in the same condition as it went in there. So
as long as they know that,
I've done that. I've done it to the best of my ability, Eileen. Whether or not people remember that 6 months from now, or hopefully weeks from now, but
woohoo.
Yeah, well, understood.
Right. Okay. All right. No, that's good. I'm fine with that.
So John, getting to your question, and again, I hate to bring up Facebook media here, but there was somebody that suggested that they were not completely informed of the cleaning protocols that are required by the CDC. Is your staff not only trained, but aware of the guidelines that they need to follow? And the second part to that question is, are we doubling our staff during the day and overlapping so that even when there's nobody in the buildings, we still have a better cleaning system to go on?
And just to piggyback on what Mylyn said, because that would be my last question. do we have enough staff in general, or do we need to hire more custodial? Because right now, they're essential. They're the ones that are the barrier between someone getting sick because Cuomo said we all have to go back.
Well, they're a piece to the puzzle. I mean, there's a certain amount of self-responsibility and hand washing and social distancing that the custodial staff will never be responsible for.
Correct.
So they're part of the equation, and they're a very big part of the equation.
Yes.
You know, as far as enough staff and everything else, you know, the information from each of the buildings is still being fine-tuned. It was only Friday that we had the community give their you know, direction whether or not they're going to do a virtual format or not. So, you know, the buildings are constantly changing with the new information that's being shared with them on a daily basis. So, you know, I can't answer that in crystal clear absolutes right now. I can tell you that
okay.
we have a strong idea of what we're up against. We've posted for additional custodial positions. I've spread the word throughout the entire unit that anybody who knows anybody who's willing to come in and do custodial work, we will interview everybody. We will give everybody a fair opportunity. And with you know, I am hoping that in the next week, you're going to see you know, a large number of sub-custodians go on for approval as well. But I just don't know what that number is going to be, just because, you know, it's hard drawing in people for a minimum wage job right now when so many other places are paying a bit more and everything else. So, I mean, there's a little, you know, it's a little bit more detail than we really need to get into at this moment. We'll share some conversations in exec as to some particulars, but you know, we're every day the picture is becoming a little bit clearer, and we're understanding how we're going to need to tackle it on a building by building basis. You know, that's I mean, that's the best I could share with you now with any kind of confidence.
Okay, John, thank you so much. Mark, do you have any questions?
Wait, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet.
Sorry, Mylene, sorry.
So, John, I don't know if I heard you answer my question. Has the staff been properly trained and are
I
aware
apologize, yes.
aware of the CDC guidelines and what is expected?
Yeah, so one of the nice things, I shouldn't say nice things, but if you remember back in March, the last meeting we held over in Sycamore, I gave a presentation to the community about the cleaning protocols and everything when we were first starting before this really evolved into what it has, you know, to this date. The custodial staff at that point was aware of basic CDC guidelines, and the guidelines themselves, while they've been fine-tuned, the actual cleaning methodologies and everything else are the same as custodian staff has been following for years and for decades prior to that. They all know the products that we're using. We're using the same products. We're just using them in slightly different areas, a little bit more frequently. You know, and we're just doing it in a different manner in that respect. But it's the same products, and they all know how to use them. If they don't, every one of their heads and chiefs are well versed. They shouldn't have a question at all. But to provide a little peace of mind, what I will do is I will send out something personally tomorrow to all of the buildings and to the custodial supervisor, asking that they provide all of their staff an opportunity to speak up if they have any concerns as to what's going to be expected of them in the coming weeks. And at the same time, we lay out the expectations, what we have for them as well.
That's good, because that's a big responsibility on these people. If they don't clean something and somebody gets sick, I mean, that's a big guilt thing that could happen. So yeah, that would be great.
Oh, thank
Understood.
you. Thank you,
Can
John.
I ask,
Oh.
what about the bathrooms? Aren't they gonna, it's almost like you need someone just for the bathrooms all day long.
Oh yeah, good.
So-
Good question, Lee.
Well, I mean, and that's kind of what I was alluding to as far as the high touch areas, the gang bathrooms, all the common areas. From what I've understood I know that the high school has said this, and I don't want to speak for the other schools and everything else, but they have bathroom monitors from previous problems that they've experienced in the building as well. and they're going to be helping to ensure distancing in the bathrooms. And we're going to have people dedicated to the hallways and the common rooms, including the bathrooms, throughout the course of the day. So they may not go in there and do every single surface, every single moment of every single day, but are they going to go in there and do the sinks on this pass through? Are they going to do the bathrooms and the urinals, the next pass 15 minutes later? They're going to be constantly in there monitoring the bathrooms throughout the course of the day as often as they possibly can.
Then let me ask you, then you're talking about the cafeteria as well, right? Because they're eating in there, social just eating. I just don't believe, how much staff is in the high school?
Well, it varies depending on the shift that we're talking about, but there are, the assigned staff to that building are 5 day custodians, 8 afternoon custodians, and then there are 4 overnight third shift custodians. So you're right, that that's definitely a lot of work for those 5 people, and it doesn't match up to the calculations that I've already done and already been thinking about. So that'll be part of our conversations after the meeting, just so we're all on the same page. But that is definitely one of the things we're looking at in depth to try to figure out the best way to approach it, whether it's a combination of overtime, sub-custodians, any number of options, but they're going to all be on the table to get as many hands available as to when we actually fully need them.
Right, it doesn't sound like you have enough staff for having to man all that. To me, anyway.
So John, we'll take the high school, for example. That's a 24-hour working building. I was under the impression that because we're not going to have anything after school. Basically, there's no clubs, there's no sports, there's nothing. I mean, maybe things will change. We'll see what the governor says on September 21st. But I was under the impression that we were going to move some of that staff up during the day, overlap, so that you have that constant flow and double protection.
Right, and that's part of what we have to talk about after the meeting in exec.
Okay, great. Linda, so I have a question for you. So let's talk about the secondary level. Will each child have a Chromebook? Because I understand that a lot of teachers don't want to touch paper. If there's a test administered, it can't really be done on paper because now we're moving paper around, we're shifting things around. We really want to keep things contained. How are we approaching this on the secondary level? And then we'll talk about the elementary level.
So I'll take that question. As of now, the Smart Schools application was submitted, and we have yet to be approved by New York State. We were able to place an order with a vendor, and we anticipate that we will be receiving Chromebooks for our students in grades 6 through 12, either late September or early October. Once the funding stream is 100% approved, then we will place the order for our kindergarten through grade 5 students. This coming week, we have a Chromebook distribution for our instructional staff, K through 12. They have an option to come in and pick up their Chromebooks before school starts. If they are not available, Chromebooks will be available at their buildings on the first day of school.
So can we encourage staff or students to bring in their devices to help until you are able to give everybody a Chromebook?
Yes, and that's something we've always done. We've always had a pretty robust, BYOD, bring your own device program throughout the high school.
Usually the kids would bring in their cell phones, but now we're asking them to bring in their own iPads, computers, Chromebooks.
Yes, we've had students bring in all of their different devices to use, but we'll continue to encourage that.
Okay, Linda, I believe this question may be for you or maybe for John. So with the thermal scans, from what I gather, that it's just a free flow, you walk through. So say Mary has a fever. How does security pull Mary out of the crowd? And how is that situation handled and also protecting Mary's privacy?
Well, that's a good question because we're being trained on the utilization of the machines on Thursday and Friday of this week. Honestly, we're going to have to stop someone from walking into the building if they have a fever. In this pandemic, we're not going to say to the rest of the kids, "Hey, kids, look, we're taking this with this person because they have a fever." We'll gently pull them over to the side and walk them down to the nurse's office because we're trying to safeguard the whole rest of the building. So what we were not allowed to do, which would have been a HIPAA violation, is store that person's data. So all we are allowed to do is know whether that person is above 100 or below 100. So that would actually be the HIPAA violation if we had stored that information. But just taking some kids who are walking past and asking them to come down to the nurse with us, I guess that outs that person that they have a temperature at that moment. But the truth is, a lot of the scans, sometimes you have to scan a second time to acclimate. Like if you were sitting on the hot bus, your skin temperature may be a little bit hot. So we'll take multiple kids down and rescan them a few minutes later and see if they're still registering a temperature.
So I'm assuming we're scanning everyone that enters the premises, adults, security, teachers, secretaries, anybody who enters the premises will have to walk through this scan?
So no, we are going to be scanning the kids. The teachers and all other faculty members will be signing monthly an attestation that says that they are that they have not been around someone who's knowingly had COVID for 14 days. They haven't traveled elsewhere. They do not have any of the signs, and they do not have a fever. Their swipe into the building is that adult attestation. Really, the reason that we're safeguarding and second scanning the children is because sometimes parents leave for work before their kids do. Sometimes their kids might have taken Advil, or the kids actually left the house before the parent was awake. So the safeguard for the faculty, staff, and students is that the students will walk through the scanners.
Okay, so my other question is, we're going to have barriers at each of the classroom stations, the desk stations.
6 through 12.
6 through 12, we're having the barrier stations for each desk. So
Correct.
if the kid is sitting at the desk, I believe the periods are what, 30 minutes?
36 minutes.
Okay, the periods are 36 minutes. If you already have the barrier, you're already 6 feet apart. Can you tell me why the child would still need to wear the mask when they've already kind of checked the box off of actually two things? You're not only 6 feet apart, you're also behind a barrier. And my other question is, when the kids move from class to class, do those barriers get cleaned? Do they get sprayed? How does that work?
The kids actually take their barrier with them. So they will enter their first period class. The barriers are actually, they're a plastic-like material that is safe for schools, and they're light. They're a 1/4 of an inch thick. They fold as like a trifold, and they have a handle on top. So the kids will be taking their barrier with them.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
So that way they're breathing on their barrier all day long, not breathing in someone else's barrier all day long. And that will be 6 through 12. Most of the time, the middle school kids are in one classroom, but for, I believe, the 7th graders, they are not cohorted for LOTE, so they will be taking their barriers with them. And for the 8th graders, they are not cohorted for science. So again, they'll be taking their barriers with them. But I forgot your second. Okay, so why should they still be masked? So, the truth is that we are trying to be as safe as possible. And we know that there's asymptomatic folks. And the decision really is from the CDC, the DOH, and New York State Department of Education. And they strongly recommend that masks remain in place, even though you have all these other barriers, just for creating the safest environment possible. On our website, the American Academy of Pediatrics we've posted the 10 questions, the 10 most popular questions about masks. And one of the things that they say is it's safe for kids to wear all day. You know, it may not be one of the things that we're used to and not part of the normal practice of being an American child, but they are safe all day long, and they do suggest hourly mask breaks. It is one of the most frequently asked questions by every parent in the district, and our director of PPS, Mrs. Gail Santo, is working with the nursing staff and going over the regulations, both the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics, and she will be putting together a protocol for district-wide for what mask breaks should look like, where the best place to take them would be, and how often they should happen. And that will be the guidelines that we will give to our teachers.
Okay, so great, you touched on my next question, because how will these mask breaks be performed? So obviously, do they go outside for the 5 minutes? Especially, we'll talk about the elementary kids. Do they go outside for the 5 minutes and just take a little bit of a breather, come back into the classroom? I mean, because it kind of defeats the purpose if they're sitting in their class, taking off their mask for a couple of minutes and then putting them back on if you're worried about contamination.
So you're right. And they do suggest that if where at all possible, kids, you know, you could do that outside, but they do say that, you know, as long as your windows are open, that when kids are quietly reading, you know, when they're, you know, their heart rate's a little bit lower and their breathing rate's a little bit lower and they're quietly reading, or they're writing an essay, or they're doing some kind of quiet work, that, and this is the American Academy of Pediatrics, this is not Linda Adams, that, you know, that's an appropriate time for kids to allow them to have a mask break. Teachers can say, you know, alternate rows, they can say everybody at the same time, but they said that, you know, there'll be days when it's raining out where you can't go out to have a mask break, or you're in the middle of a lesson and taking, you know, 5 minutes to walk outside and 5 minutes to have the mask off and 5 minutes to come back inside is not going to be appropriate. So provided that there's windows are open and kids are in a quiet, relaxed state, they can take their masks off for, you know, 5 minutes or so at a time.
Are we going to encourage any type of outdoor learning so that it makes it a little bit more comfortable for the kids and staff, in particular to the elementary level?
Our faculty has always had the opportunity to take their classes outside. In fact, if you've ever been to Cherokee, we have a teacher who has set up little stumps from some medium-sized trees outside for kids to be learning outside. So that's always been an opportunity, and really they just need to talk to their principal about when they're going out, where they're going out, how long they expect to be out, so that we can make sure that we have appropriate security, and that we, you know, that the principal knows where folks are, just in case that there is some kind of emergency or anything else happening in the building. But that's always been an option.
Okay, so now we understand that the kids are going to, we'll again talk about elementary. So we understand that the kids are going to be in their classroom to have their lunch. Are they going to be provided recess on nice days?
Absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely.
And my last question, I'm sorry to take the board's time, is with the armed guards. So now we may see some new faces in our security staff. Will they also be wearing some type of tag to identify who they are? How does that work? I mean, I understand that the armed guards will not be in the building, but will they have any type of identification?
Absolutely. They'll be uniformed, just like our regular guards are.
Great. Thank you. You've answered all my questions. Greatly appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, actually, any questions I had, Mylin asked. I only had like a handful, and Mylin asked them all, so I'm good.
I have one
I have questions. I
Okay,
have questions too.
Lee first, then you, Jackie, and then we have exec session. Go ahead.
How many virtual students are there?
Good question, Lee. I forgot about that one.
So right now, sorry, I'm just pulling up my information.
And Dean, also
if you-
explain to me when I emailed you that question, if you could also clarify that for parents as well.
Sure. If
I
you
don't
want
wanna
to ask
mad
another
rush.
question while I get that information, that would be fine.
Well, my question was to, people that were on vacation and missed the deadline or, just forgot, they can still call up and work the district to get the virtual option if they want to, because we're giving choices.
Right. We're still, we want to make sure that we're affording the opportunities to parents who may have missed the deadline. And trying to do two things at once. I apologize.
That's okay, Dean.
So we're trying to afford that opportunity for parents who missed the deadline can submit. We do have some rough guidelines that we're going by to make sure that we're able to provide the instruction that's necessary and the staffing that's necessary. But we're encouraging all parents to make sure that is submitted. As the deadline was Friday at 4 o'clock, and it's really important that we have all that information in order to staff the buildings appropriately.
Right.
So at the elementary level, we have 283 students. And at
How many students are there altogether in elementary?
how many, what is our student population?
Yes.
That is the one answer I do not have, but I will get that for you.
Well, do you know how many students are going to be in school in elementary?
I don't know if Mr. Kolhifar has that information handy either.
Okay.
It's about 10% of the kids that are opting out from K through 12.
Sorry. So at OBMS, we have 44 students. At RMS, we have 95 students.
Mr. Middleman, I'm
And-
sorry, I don't have that information about the enrollment. I'll look for it as well.
Thank you. And at OBMS, at Connecticut High School, it is 148 students.
148. So it's a little over 100 between RMS and OBM? Is that it?
No, so OBMS has 44 students and RMS has 95 students.
So it's 135 or something like that. 130. And the high school has, and then the elementary.
It's
Not many,
287 total at the secondary schools,
right?
and then 283 at the elementary.
Okay.
So right now at the elementary schools, we're anticipating 2 virtual sections at each grade level. And that goes back to my earlier comment about making sure that we have the appropriate staffing available to cover those classes.
And we need how many teachers that we're going to hire?
Right now at the elementary level, we're looking at having 2 sections per grade level,
So
being full
approximately,
virtual.
approximately how many teachers is that? That
12.
you hired? 12?
12. We need 12. We need 12 sections covered.
High school? You don't know yet.
High school and middle school are covered via the live streaming that we're providing.
So that'll fill that gap.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
The total elementary enrollment, Ms. Kennedy, is 2,141 students. The
In
total,
elementary?
that's the elementary enrollment. The total secondary enrollment is 3,033 students.
Okay. Wow. So I just wanted to know, the majority of parents chose the come back to school option versus a segment chose the virtual, which in a way makes it better because there's less students in the school and it satisfies the people that feel uncomfortable bringing their children into the school at this point. So I think you guys did a good job. Let's just hope and pray that we can follow through on all the things we have to do to keep this district going in a safe manner and keep those, tell those kids how important it is to wear those masks. Because today what I saw really, really made me start thinking twice about some of the problems that we're going to be facing when it comes just to masks. Now, that's why I think we need staff and everyone standing in the hallways and talking in the class and reminding everyone of the importance of wearing these masks for the next couple of months. No.
Okay,
Okay, I'm up.
Jackie and then Mark and then that's it.
Okay. Thank you guys. You answered a lot of the questions. I was going to ask about if we would get more custodians and a bunch of other things. But the one that I wanted to know was, Dr. Adams, what if a teacher isn't using their smart board for middle school and high school? Mostly middle, what are they going to be doing with that? I know that then what does the teacher's voice come over? Because I have a lot of questions for that kind of stuff.
So I'm
Yeah,
going to throw
so-
it over to Mr.
Wait,
Middleton.
wait 1 second. That's going to be a lot of the parental questions too. So, we don't do a lot of those questions, Jackie. The parents have a right to ask those questions on Thursday.
I understand, but
Yeah.
Eileen, I am a parent of a middle school child as well.
I'd ask,
And
then you
I'm
ask
getting
them
this-
on Thursday too.
No, well,
I
I'm
know.
telling you this. Listen, I wanted to be at that meeting in the front row, and you're all telling me I can only go for my 5 minutes. So no, I'm asking my question right now, which
All
is
right, go ahead.
not just my question. A lot of parents reached out to me and asked me, "What if a teacher isn't using the smart board?" There is a divide in the community of who wants. Well, I don't know what's better. I'm not an educator. I'm honest about that, but I'm going off of what you guys are presenting, and I'm just trying to find out what is a kid going to be doing, sitting home and looking at a smart board. I just can't see that as engaging and educational. At least not for the like. I thank God that my son is still in elementary school, because I don't think that being a child who's not a focused child, how are you getting a child to focus on looking at the computer screen and looking at a smart board? I don't think you would have my focus for 36 minutes with that.
So, I think as we have said throughout this entire process, none of this is ideal for any learner. So, to say that, one is better than the other is not really, is not really appropriate at this time. We are going to provide our teachers with a variety of different options that they will be able to use in order to live stream their lessons to the hybrid students and to the virtual students. This is the methodology that was selected as far as being able to provide some instruction for our students who are remote. It is synchronous, which is something that our community had asked for. The asynchronous component that was originally discussed obviously didn't have as much interaction and contact, which was something that the community was definitely looking for.
Dean, let me ask you, what kind of interaction do you have with this? If a child has a question, and I'm just going to go off of some of these children are just teenagers. If you're going with 6th grade, what are we looking at? 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds in middle school, maybe 14, and in high school. These kids, if they have a question for a teacher, I mean, how is a teacher gonna be teaching children I'm just so confused, because in the beginning I thought we were gonna have it with the teachers with separate the way that elementary is. But I understand what you guys are doing, and I understand why, but what I don't understand is how are we supposed to get these kids to actually engage? They're gonna have a question, and they may have to wait from the questions I read that I think Linda and whoever else answered that was sent in. If a kid has a question, they're going to have to wait until possibly the next day, or a teacher has, I don't know what it is, 48 hours or something like that, to email them back, or maybe later that day. Or I don't know about you, but if a child is sitting next to you and doing their homework and doing this live instruction, they have a question, an hour later, they may forget the question, but that question may very well be something they needed for a test or something else. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. I just feel like there's no interaction. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. I just know that I don't know if that's the best, in my opinion.
And I completely understand that. And you know, that is accurate. You know, within the teacher's contract, they do have 48 hours to return an email. But the option is available to teachers to be able to open the live chat with students and be able to respond to them immediately. The option is still available for teachers to, throughout the day, respond to questions that they receive. There are 2 live virtual extra help sessions during the school day that
Right,
students can access.
but
So,
here's
you know,
another
there are a
question.
variety of different opportunities for students to be able to interact with their teachers. You know, activities that teachers are doing can also be interactive, meaning
Okay, but
that if they're doing class discussions, the students who are virtual, the teachers can elect to have those students participate as well.
But Dean, let me ask you something. I'll piggyback off of Lee. She's not wrong in saying that our kids gonna really wear masks. I mean, I personally can't see them wearing them perfectly all day long, because I know that if you saw me walking through the school hallways and I needed a breather, I'd be taking it off and on too. So if I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna be honest. We all know how I feel about the mask thing, but what I'm saying to you is now Lee said that teachers and whoever staff should be in the hallway. So now we're going to ask teachers and staff to be in the hallway to police children not wearing masks or wearing them the wrong way. Now, children that possibly we're going to give more mental health issues to because they possibly are having an issue trying to breathe in it. And I appreciate and I agree with having YFS and Gail deal with the discipline, because that was one of my questions. What exactly is the example of discipline for mask wearing? Because I can't see coming down heavy-handed on a kid. This is all so new to them. It's new for us. It's new for the adults. It's super new for them. And this is so different for them. And I don't know about you, but I can't imagine young kids seeing other young kids wearing masks as not being scary, as like, and now a kid's not wearing a mask the right way and we're going to call them out and embarrass them. There's so many things that I don't see right now, or that I could see go wrong and make things worse rather than better. And of no fault of any one person, it's just the situation that we're in. I just am trying to figure out what exactly are we going to be saying to staff. You have to now police kids wearing masks, and not only are you going to have to dealing with the kids at home that may have questions for you, now you got to deal with emailing them back, calling them, dealing with them on B days if they're the A kids. I just think that there's so many issues. Has there been any talk of any kind of other solutions or ways to bring this more together where there isn't, or what exactly are we going to have? Like Lee is saying about the people in the hallway. How are you going to have people in the hallway if the few minutes that they could possibly email these kids back or check to see what the chat says or check, they're going to be in the hallway policing for masks?
I think the elementary kids are going to be fine. I'm more concerned about the high school kids and the,
Lee and I actually disagree with you. I think you're going to see more elementary kids that how are you think a 5 and a 6-year-old are going to be able to wear a mask for 7 hours by taking every hour, taking a breather for a few minutes?
I have a funny feeling it's not going to be every hour. You know, I would just let the teachers handle that, but elementary children listen to rules.
Guys, everybody has their opinion on what they think. We can go on forever.
I don't think all elementary kids listen to rules. I think
at this point, I think we're going around in circles.
No, but Eileen, I think we should drop off my son to Lee and see how well it works for her.
Yeah, I get you, Jackie. But I think discussing this tonight, we're not going to get the answers tonight because we're not in it yet. So we got to listen. I know I couldn't wear my mask for 3 hours at the college. I know that. I would never force anyone to do it. I hate that Quinlan was throwing this on us. But at this point, I think we need to let the parents ask their questions on Thursdays. And you know, we don't have all the answers. We just don't. No one does. So
can I ask Dean a real quick question?
You got like 2 seconds, Lee.
Okay, one question. Dean, what about live streaming? Is there such an animal that we could do?
That's part of our secondary plan for our hybrid and remote students, is to provide that kind of live stream lesson to them in their homes. We
So
will be
teacher-
providing teachers with a variety of different solutions that they'll be able to choose from to be able to broadcast their lessons to the students that are at home.
So Dean, let me ask you a question regarding that. So
Mylin, you
wouldn't-
got 2 seconds and then we're ending the questions.
So wouldn't a viable option be to use the Zoom method so that the teacher has the Zoom, kids in the class have the Zoom, kids at home have the Zoom, and work off of that platform?
So we're one of the things that was discussed is we're using Google Classroom as our primary platform. And within Google Classroom is an application called Google Meet, which is what we will be using to broadcast. And again, I could go into very great detail, but we are going to provide teachers with solutions that they can use through Google Meet that will be able to help them broadcast their lessons to students at home and maintain the integrity of the lesson throughout the day.
Okay, great. Yeah, I should have been more specific and said Google Meets, but I think you knew what I meant by Zoom.
All right, so at this time, I'm gonna end the discussion and we're gonna talk about the consent agenda, approving items 2 through 20. I need a
Aye.
motion, a second, and all in favor.
You had your motion. You just
Oh,
looking for
right,
your
I need
eye.
an all in favor, thank you.
Aye,
Aye.
Mylan.
Aye, Lee.
Eileen.
Aye.
Okay. That's it, because we're doing the public session on Thursday. Again, I hope everybody goes. At this time, I need a motion and a second to go into executive session in accordance with open meetings law, section 105F, employment history of a particular person, confidential, and exempt under open meetings law to seek legal advice from the board's attorney.
Motion.
I'll
Second.
second. All
Okay, at this time, we're gonna go back into executive session. Jesse, we use the
all
original
in
link.
favor, all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi,
Aye.
Jackie.
Aye.
Jesse, we use the original link, correct?
Correct.
All right, I gotta go find that again. Thank you.
Aye.
See you
Good
guys
night,
in a few
everyone.
minutes. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.